Welcome to the Smart Keys podcast. Imagine your company just handing you $1,000 a year and saying, go buy a Peloton or order a month of HelloFresh or see a therapist. And it's entirely on us.
Right. I mean, it sounds totally like a scam.
Exactly. Or, maybe some leftover perk from the dot-com bubble.
Yeah.
But it's actually the new frontier of corporate survival.
It really is. I mean, we are watching this massive structural shift in how businesses operate and how they retain their top talent right now.
And that is exactly what we're getting into today. So in this deep dive, we're exploring how the realities of remote work, combined with unprecedented levels of employee stress, are completely reshaping the way companies support you, the employee.
Yeah, the landscape has changed so much.
It really has. We're on a mission today to decode this rapidly rising trend, which is the employee well-being stipend. And our guide for this journey is this comprehensive, just incredibly detailed playbook by Felix Römer from Smart Keys titled Employee Wellbeing Stipends, a new perk for the remote era.
It's such a great resource.
It is. We are treating this source material as an absolute essential resource for modern professionals who really want to understand the future of work and business efficiency. So let's just set the stage here. Why is this such an urgent conversation for businesses to be having?
Well, let's look at the present-day reality for the workforce.
Yeah.
Stress is, it's no longer just a buzzword. It is practically a baseline condition for the modern employee.
Yeah, sadly.
Right. And Gallup recently reported that 40% of employees felt stressed a lot the very day before they were surveyed.
Wow, 40%.
Yeah. And only 1 in 3 reported actually thriving. Now, you take that widespread systemic burnout and you couple it with the traditional healthcare landscape. I mean, the costs are just skyrocketing. The average family premium for health insurance has hit $25,572 a year.
Wait, 25 grand. That is a staggering number just to have a safety net.
Exactly. It's wild. And Mercer projects that employer health costs are going to rise another 6.5% very soon. So, companies are feeling this immense financial squeeze from these insurance premiums while simultaneously looking around and realizing, hey, our workforce is still struggling, they're still stressed, and still burning out.
Okay, let's unpack this because the way most companies have historically handled their benefits, it really reminds me of buying a massive, incredibly expensive cable TV package.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
You know exactly the one I'm talking about, right? You pay top dollar for 500 channels. You have the 24-hour unicycle racing channel, the obscure history channel, the knitting channel, but you only ever watch 3 of them.
Right. You're subsidizing all this content that you do not care about and will literally never use.
Exactly. Employers are doing the exact same thing. They are paying premium corporate prices for these rigid one-size-fits-all perks. They pay for an on-site corporate gym, or they buy a massive subscription to a specific niche meditation app for the whole company. And according to NFP data in our sources, only 28% of employees actually use those perks fully.
Which means 72% of that corporate spend is basically evaporating.
Just gone.
Right, just gone. That is the ultimate friction point. The traditional benefits model, that cable package you mentioned, is becoming unsustainably expensive for the employer to maintain and wildly underutilized by the actual employees.
It's a lose-lose situation.
It really is. And because businesses just can't afford to set money on fire anymore, they are rapidly shifting to a highly personalized approach. And this is where the well-being stipend enters the chat.
Okay, let's define our terms here so we're all on the same page. What exactly is a well-being stipend in this context?
So at its core, a well-being stipend is an employer-funded, taxable allowance dedicated entirely to personal well-being and lifestyle items.
Okay.
Instead of the company buying a service and just hoping you use it, they put a set sum of money directly into your hands to cover the health and lifestyle costs that actually matter to you.
Now, I want to pause and make sure we don't lose the listener in corporate alphabet soup here, because when you say employer-funded health allowance, my brain immediately goes to those pre-tax accounts. So is this basically just like a health savings account?
No, and I am so glad you asked that because we have to be very clear about what this is not. It is absolutely crucial to distinguish a stipend from those traditional health accounts you might interact with during open enrollment.
Right.
It is not an HSA, which is a health savings account. It is not an FSA, a flexible spending account, or an HRA either.
Right, because those accounts are bound by incredibly strict rules from the government. You have to set that money aside before taxes, and the IRS provides a very rigid list of what actually qualifies as a medical expense. You can use an FSA to pay for your prescription glasses or a doctor's copay, but you definitely cannot use it to buy a mountain bike or a new pair of running shoes.
Precisely. Those accounts are strictly regulated. A well-being stipend also isn't a premium reimbursement, which is, an arrangement where the company just pays you back for your monthly health insurance bill.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, a stipend is much broader and frankly much simpler in its philosophy. It breaks completely outside of the strictly medical definition of health.
And the shift in philosophy here is what really jumps out at me from the source material. Instead of the company acting like a parent and guessing what you need, guessing that you want, I don't know, an on-site ping pong table or a discount to a specific local yoga studio, you, the employee, had to decide.
Right, you are the adult in the room.
Exactly. Flexible models allow companies to define broad categories of what's allowed, and they can change the cadence of the money. They can give it out as $100 a month or maybe a lump sum of $1,200 annually so you can act on your own timeline. But I have to push back here.
Go for it.
I am looking at this from the perspective of an employee who just wants to pay rent and buy groceries.
Right.
If an employee can spend this stipend money on almost anything lifestyle related, doesn't it just become a glorified bonus check?
I hear what you're saying.
Honestly, if a company has an extra $1,000 a year to spend on me, why not just give me a raise? Just add it to my base pay, let me do whatever I want with it, and let's be done with the administrative dance.
It's a completely logical question, and honestly, it's the first thing most CFOs ask too. But the answer lies in the behavioral psychology of how human beings actually value money.
Okay, tell me more about that.
Think about what happens when an employer gives you a tiny bump in your base pay. Let's say they take that $1,000 and spread it out. You get an extra, $80 a month before taxes? What happens at that $80?
It instantly disappears into my checking account. It pays the electric bill, or it gets swallowed up by the fact that eggs cost more this week.
Exactly. It gets absorbed into your baseline survival expenses.
Yeah.
You do not feel it as a benefit. You don't look at your electric bill and think, wow, my company really cares about my wellness.
Yeah, definitely not.
But a dedicated lifestyle fund acts as a psychological permission slip. It creates what behavioral economists call mental accounting. It's a structured allowance specifically earmarked for your well-being. By giving it as a discrete stipend, the company is explicitly saying, we value your health. Do not spend this on your water bill. Go spend this on yourself.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. It forces you to treat yourself in a way you probably wouldn't if it was just mixed in with your normal paycheck.
Right, and that drives a much higher perceived value. It actually moves the needle on morale and prevents burnout, whereas a tiny raise is quickly forgotten and does absolutely nothing to improve your daily stress levels.
Okay, I buy the psychological argument. That is fascinating. So if we accept that these dedicated stipends drive better perceived value than a tiny salary bump, what does this actually look like in the wild? I mean, are big companies actually doing this, or is it just a trendy startup?
It is definitely not just startups. The benchmarks from leading companies are incredibly varied, which really proves just how adaptable this tool is across different industries. Let's look at some examples from the source material.
Sure.
First, you have EY Ernst & Young. They offer up to $1,000 a year across various categories, but they use a 75% reimbursement rule.
Meaning if I buy a $1,000 treadmill, they only pay for $750 of it.
Correct. EY's philosophy there is to ensure the employee has some skin in the game. They want you to actually want the item, not just buy it because it's free.
Cool.
Now, contrast that with a tech company like Webflow. They provide a flat $200 per month, and they run it through a dedicated digital stipend platform. It's a use-it-or-lose-it monthly allowance for whatever wellness means to you that month.
That variety is wild. The article also notes Microsoft is offering $1,500 a year specifically for health and fitness. Salesforce goes with a $100 monthly allowance. Deloitte is at $1,000 annually. Adobe at $600. So there is clearly no single right amount.
No, not at all.
But it shows you that the biggest players in the business landscape are treating this as a very serious component of compensation.
And what's equally important is understanding what employees are actually buying with these funds, because it completely redefines corporate wellness. Based on the data, we see purchases breaking down into 4 main pillars.
Okay, let's hear them.
The first, obviously, is physical health. But this isn't just a basic gym membership anymore. It covers boutique fitness classes, personal training, home equipment like kettlebells, and wearable tech. A massive number of employees are using their stipends for their Whoop straps, Aura rings, or Peloton monthly subscriptions.
Which is brilliant because fitness is not one size fits all. And the second pillar really reflects the post-pandemic world, which is mental health support.
Absolutely.
This goes way beyond an annual seminar. This covers out-of-pocket therapy costs, telehealth counseling, subscriptions to mindfulness apps, and even cognitive behavioral therapy courses.
Then you have the third pillar, which is nutrition and recovery. And this is where it gets really interesting because, yes, your HelloFresh or Blue Apron meal deliveries can qualify under many of these programs.
Wait, I can expense my meal kits. That is incredible.
It is. Because if you think about it, decision fatigue and lack of time to cook are massive contributors to burnout. A meal kit directly addresses that stress. And finally, the fourth pillar is financial wellness. That means using the stipend for premium budgeting apps, paying for sessions with a financial coach, or even putting it towards student loan support.
Okay, I have an analogy for why this specific variety in purchasing power is so vital. Think about localized flexibility.
Okay.
Let's say you have a distributed remote team. A traditional flat-rate corporate gym discount is entirely useless. A gym membership in the middle of New York City costs something completely different than a membership in a rural town in the Midwest. Or maybe the rural employee doesn't even have a commercial gym within 40 miles of their house.
Right, so a corporate discount means absolutely nothing to them.
Exactly. But by offering a flat dollar stipend, say, that $200 a month Webflow creates infinite fairness. The New York employee can use that $200 to subsidize their really expensive cycling studio class, while the rural employee can save it up and buy a stationary bike for their living room.
That geographical equity is a massive driver for why remote-first companies are adopting this. It bridges the gap where traditional location-based benefits just completely fail distributed teams.
But, this is where my excitement about all this flexible spending hits a sudden, very real roadblock.
Let me guess. The IRS.
Yes, the tax reality. How do businesses execute this without creating an absolute administrative and tax nightmare for everyone involved?
It is the single most critical hurdle, and we really have to talk about the mechanics of it. The hard truth, according to human resources organizations and IRS guidelines, is that the IRS treats almost all of these flexible wellness incentives as taxable income.
So there's no loophole.
Very rarely. The IRS basically says, unless a perk is so tiny that it's not worth the paperwork, like a free donut in the break room or a branded company t-shirt, they want their cut. So this stipend money goes on the employee's W-2 at the end of the year. It is subject to standard federal withholding and standard payroll taxes.
Okay, I want to make this visceral for the listener. Imagine you, the listener, use your new corporate perk to buy a $100 smartwatch. You're feeling great, your company is awesome. Then Friday rolls around, you look at your pay stub, and your normal take-home pay is suddenly $30 or $40 lighter because the taxes for that watch were withheld from your regular salary. You would be marching down to HR furiously.
People absolutely will be furious, and they have been. That is the exact HR headache that companies face. If you do an employee-paid tax model, you cannot just launch this program without intensely communicating the actual take-home value. However, there is a second option. It's called the gross-up.
What is that?
A gross-up is where the employer decides to cover the tax burden on behalf of the employee.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so if the company wants you to have $100 to spend on shoes, they actually paid out, say, $135 on their end. The $35 goes to the IRS, and you, the employee, take home the full intended $100 net amount. No surprises on your pay stub.
Hold on, I have to push back hard on this. You're telling me a CFO, someone whose entire job is to minimize costs, is going to voluntarily pay a hefty tax penalty just so an employee gets a free pair of running shoes without complaining. That sounds like a massive, unnecessary financial drain on the company.
I mean, it sounds counterintuitive, right?
Yeah.
But you have to look at the larger return on investment. Why is the CFO paying that extra $35 in taxes? Because replacing an employee who quits due to burnout costs an average of $20,000 to $30,000 in lost productivity, recruiting fees, and training. Paying a little extra tax to ensure the employee actually loves and uses their wellness benefit is incredibly cheap retention insurance. It drastically improves the perceived value of the perk and completely eliminates that HR headache you just mentioned.
Okay, yeah. When you frame it against a $20,000 turnover cost, the tax gross-up is literally pennies in the couch cushions.
Exactly. But to pull off either method, using tax compliance software that integrates seamlessly with your payroll is non-negotiable. You cannot run a global stipend program on a messy Excel spreadsheet.
Oh, I can't even imagine.
It would be a disaster. You need digital platforms that automate that tax withholding, automatically track the reimbursements, and digitize the receipts so nobody gets a horrible surprise during tax season. When you pair a clear policy with compliant software, the program runs smoothly, year-end reporting is simple, and the finance team stays happy.
So, given all these tax complexities, the software investments required, and the careful HR communications tightrope, let's talk about the big picture. Why are companies so eager to adopt this?
Because the financial states of getting this wrong are almost incomprehensible. Gallup estimates that low employee engagement and poor well-being cost the global economy $8.9 trillion in lost productivity. Trillion. With a T.
8.9 trillion. It's almost too big of a number to even wrap your head around.
It is, but CEOs are feeling that macro-level loss locally in their own daily margins. It shows up as absenteeism, it shows up as quiet quitting, and it shows up as missed deadlines. A recent study found that 58% of CEOs now view employee health not as a charity initiative and not as a soft HR perk, but as critical to their financial success. It is a core business strategy tied directly to driving productivity.
So, when we move past the theory and look at the measurable outcomes, are these flexible stipends actually working? Like, what is the mechanism that makes them successful?
The mechanism is empowerment, and the data is overwhelmingly positive. When you give an employee the autonomy to fix their own specific stressors, whether that's buying a meal kit to save time or a therapy app to manage anxiety, they become holistically healthy. And MetLife data shows that holistically healthy employees are 59% more likely to feel engaged in their work.
Wow.
They're 53% more likely to be productive and 74% more likely to be satisfied with their job.
Because they aren't distracted by the burnout, they can actually focus.
Precisely. And retention absolutely follows suit. Firms that emphasize health see about 25% higher retention. When an employee feels supported on a personal level, they are twice as likely to plan to stay with their company for at least another 12 months.
And to control their budgets while achieving these numbers, it sounds like companies are getting really smart about efficiency. The source material notes that companies are actively estimating their vendors.
Right.
They're looking at that metaphorical cable package of low-use perks, canceling the niche programs that nobody watches, and rolling all those fractured funds into one single predictable budget line item for finance, which is the flexible stipend. And the results speak for themselves.
They really do. A major benefits platform noted that companies see up to 18 times higher participation when they switch to flexible stipends compared to traditional point solutions. 18 times.
That is wild, but it makes sense. If you finally let people buy what they actually want, of course they are going to use it.
That consolidation is the magic key. It reduces benefit to sprawl, it cuts down on the administrative fees of managing 10 different vendors, and it aligns the company's spend perfectly with what employees actually value. It's a brilliant move for financial forecasting, too, because the finance department just has one predictable line item to track against their retention goals.
I look at this whole movement as building a defensive moat for businesses.
I like that.
Yeah, if you are a company today and you aren't offering this kind of flexible, personalized support, you are actively losing your best talent. You are bleeding talent to competitors who understand that they need to treat employees like holistic human beings, not just workers who only exist from 9 to 5. If your competitor is buying your top engineers' HelloFresh boxes and paying for their financial coaching, good luck keeping that engineer with a standard dental plan and a dusty ping pong table in a break room they never visit because they work remotely.
That is a perfect way to frame it. The talent market is simply too competitive to ignore holistic support. So if a company is going to build this defensive moat, they need a practical blueprint. And the most important takeaway from our source material is this: you have to avoid wellness washing.
Okay, what does wellness washing actually look like in practice?
So wellness washing is when a company offers a shiny stipend, but their corporate culture is so demanding that employees don't have the time or the energy to actually use it. You cannot give someone a mental health stipend and then demand they work 80-hour weeks and answer emails at midnight.
Right, that defeats the whole purpose.
Exactly. It is incredibly cynical, and employees see right through it. To avoid this, you have to embed support into the actual workflow. You have to train managers to model the behavior. Managers need to take their own fitness breaks and talk about it openly with their teams, which really reduces the stigma.
It has to be culturally acceptable to actually log off and use the perk.
Yes, exactly. Furthermore, businesses need to set clear, smart goals. Don't just launch a stipend and hope for the best. Track your utilization rates, track whether absenteeism goes down, and iterate the program based on what your employees actually spend their money on.
Right.
And finally, remember that geographic equity we talked about.
Yeah.
Localize the currencies for your global teams. Make sure the benefit translates fairly across borders and avoids frustrating foreign exchange fees for the employee in Europe or Asia.
It really is a comprehensive shift in how we define compensation, care, and just the basic relationship between a worker and a company. Which brings me to a final, slightly provocative thought for you, the listener, to chew on. We started this deep dive talking about the rigid nature of traditional benefits, like that massive cable TV package where the company forced you to take whatever channels they offered, regardless of your personal needs. Now we're entering this era of ultimate personalization. The Wellbeing Stipend lets you pick your own channels. You get to define what health means to you.
It puts the agency and the power back in the hands of the individual.
It does, and that is a beautiful thing, but it also deeply blurs the lines. If employers are funding our personal therapy sessions, our family's HelloFresh meals, our sleep tracking rings, and our private financial coaching, where does the boundary between our personal lives and corporate support truly begin and end in the remote work era? It's incredibly empowering, yes, but it also means the company is more intimately woven into the fabric of our daily personal lives than at any other point in modern history. It's a fascinating trade-off.
It really is a profound shift in the social contract between employer and employee. It asks us to totally rethink what a job is actually supposed to provide.
It absolutely does. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Smart Keys podcast. We hope this deep dive gave you some serious food for thought on how companies are evolving and how you can navigate the future of work. Make sure you subscribe to our deep dive so you never miss an exploration into the trends and strategies reshaping our world. And if you want to see the full, comprehensive blueprint for yourself, I highly urge you to read Felix Römer's full article. We've put the link right there in the show notes. Until next time, keep questioning the baseline.